when we're planning Life Hack and we're putting together the speakers, on one day I was just praying and I finished praying, like I heard, I went on Instagram and the first video I saw was your video. And that was the time where I just had clarity on what the team actually meant. It was the video where you shared your story of coming to Lagos from Port Harcourt. And I'm like, this auntie must come for Life Hack. And I sent her a message. And one day I was just talking to my brother, and it's like, he knows her. And before he could chat her, she had responded to us. And then I'm really excited. To me, she is the spirit of the meeting. So, Anne, I want to ask you, and especially for people that don't know, what happened to you between 2020 and 2023?
Okay, thank you so much, Pastor, for having me. It's a privilege to be here today. And thank you for your kind words as well. To answer your question, a lot, right? When you put it like that, I don't even know where to start from or what to start pinpointing. But I will just say that, I had, 2020 was COVID year. Everybody had one thing or the other going on with them. But with that, I also had personal challenges. I used to be in Lagos, and then for some reason, that year was the year that everything fell apart. Every single thing that was going well for me, I lost it, from my job to my house to a relationship, and I had to move back to Port Harcourt, which is where my parents stay. Right, and I was there for a while, and in I think 2021, that year was just really, really tough year for me, because now I don't know what to do with my life. Everything that I thought was purpose, I wasn't doing them anymore. Right, the things that I had tied my identity to had slipped out of my fingers, and I had to start asking myself, okay, what next? What do I do with my life? And I think why it was that personal for me was because of, while I was in the university, I spent the better part of my, university serving God. I pastored while I was in uni from, I think, 200 level. I was already like an assistant pastor. And then I also pastored a church, while I was wrapping up university. And I was very committed to God, and I served God, and I poured my heart out to Him, and it just felt like, so this is what you are going to do after everything that we've been through, right? And yeah, I just see that's what was going on with me, right? So because of that, I was very depressed, and I was just in a really dark place. Yeah. So
what changed? How did you move from that person to the person that you are today?
Okay, so it was a long process, of, first of all, I think acceptance. When you go through certain difficult situations, I think, of course, there is part where you get to ask yourself a lot of questions, ask God a lot of questions, trying to get answers, and some of which you will understand, some you'll get answers, and then some you might not understand in the moment, some you might never even get to understand exactly why this thing played out the way it did. So I think for me, it was first of all accepting that this thing has happened. Every single thing that is making you sad, that was making me upset, that was, making me embarrassed, or, was bringing shame, I just said it has happened, and, me worrying about it wouldn't change a thing, right? So I had to come to that place of acceptance, accepting that, okay, so where do we go from here? How do we move forward, right? Of course, you have to fight the mental battle of the devil telling you that, oh, you can't, move on from this, you're not going to be anything great, just stay low and hide your face and, all of that. But then the interesting thing is that in all of that, I still knew that God was with me, right? I knew that God was there. I just didn't understand why He was allowing, all of those things to happen to me and just watching me go through it. I think that after all of that, it took a conscious effort of just surrendering to God, right? I think in the video you must have watched that I talked about, going to WAFBEC. I had just decided that, I'm not just going to sit here and keep crying and keep being sad. I need to get up, And for me, one of those things in that season was that I felt the need to, change my environment, right? I think the fact that I was just in my father's house and, much wasn't happening around. I wanted to go out, I think, of that comfort zone, right? So that taking the action alone was like me throwing myself into the deep end. I'm like, God, you have to catch me, right? So I took steps, which was, I'm going to move out of the city. I'm going to just trust God. This is what I want. God, just give me a job. And it just really took a walk of faith for me. I started walking in faith. I started having to believe that, God can still give beauty for ashes. I just started filling myself up with God's word, and just declaring those things over my life. And because what happened was, I usually say that depression is kind of, it's all in the mind, right? It's a mind game as much as it's also spiritual, right? So it was me trying to tell myself that this is not who you are, this is not what God's plan is for yourself, and speaking those words, to recalibrate.
Okay, so when you were starting afresh,
yeah,
where did you find? Because I moved from Port Harcourt to Lagos, or I was moved. I didn't move like you. But I don't know how many of you are, but what she did, if you don't know, is that she packed her bags, came to Lagos to no job, literally to start afresh. So my question is, how did you find the courage? And how did you sustain yourself during that period?
Okay. So when people talk about boldness, right, and courage and audacity, it's something that in the moment, right, it might not be what you have. It's just a decision that I'm going to do this thing regardless of how I feel, right? So I don't think that I was just fed up, right? I didn't have a choice. And they usually say when you get to rock bottom sometimes, that's when there's nowhere else to go. So the only way out is up, right? So I'm just like, I have to do this. I don't have, I didn't like the months that I had just, sitting and crying and being sad. Nothing was changing, right? As much as there were times when I'll try out something, it will not work. I'll try out something, it will not work. I was very aware that there was a possibility that, I would try this out and it won't work. And I already told myself that I got to Lagos, I gave myself should I go into those? Okay. So, the details that I did not share was that I had been praying about, going to Lagos and everything. I made sure I was going to attend WAVEC, right? And I had traveled, I came for WAVEC, and then afterwards I was supposed to return back to Port Harcourt, which I did, right? Then I had met someone during that first coming to Lagos. I met someone and, the person had offered me their place. We were going to be out of the country for 6 weeks. And said I could have the place for 6 weeks. So there I am, I'm praying to God. I'm like, God, in these 6 weeks, I don't know how it wants to happen. I have to get my own place, right? I just have to get somewhere that I was staying. I was hoping to get a short-term apartment that would let me pay monthly because my faith could not even carry having that bulk Lagos rent, right? So I took the opportunity. I had gone back to Port Harcourt now, so I packed my bags and then moved to that apartment that person had given me. Mind you, I had never even met this person before now, but very risky things, right? They say desperate times call for desperate measures, so I decided to jump on that opportunity. I just believed that it was God making a way for me. And then I think during that 6 weeks, it was more like a retreat for me, so I spent a lot of time. This place was all the way after Ekpe, close to Dangote Refinery kind of place, all the way deep down. So I wasn't even in the heart of Lagos. I wasn't going out a lot or anything, right? I was just using that season to listen to a lot of sermons, do a lot of prayer, and sometimes just break down and cry because I'm looking at the dates going by and I'm like, God, time is going. I don't have an apartment. I don't even, because I was searching and I had someone that was helping me search, right? Mind you, all of this is after I had, miraculously gotten. I'm just talking as if everybody has watched the video, but let me just give more context, right? So when I had come to WAFBEC, there was a day that, I was very, very broke. I didn't have a lot of money. I had spent my last resources that I had just to attend that event. WAFBEC is a program at the beginning of the year. It's a church program, right? And then someone randomly reached out to me. She had just came to my Instagram and she's like, God had laid it on her heart to send me some money. So she asked for my account number. I said that typically me, I used to waste time to send my account number, but I really, really needed the money that time. So I'm like, okay, thank you, Jesus. Because when I said I had zero, I had zero. It's not that. I didn't even have 1,000 naira in my account, right? I had exhausted myself, and I knew that that day while I was in that event, there was someone that I had also met at the hotel shortly that I was staying. He was also going for WAFBEC, so I just planned that day we'll just hitch a ride together, and then that's how we'll get back. How I will come out the next day, I didn't even know. So that night, I was expecting like maybe 20K, 30K from this woman, and then I woke up the next morning because I sent her my account, and then I fell asleep. I was just hoping that at least I know that bad as it bad, I will see transports to go tomorrow. I see an alert of 500,000 naira. And it was mind-blowing because up till now, 500,000 naira is still money, right? Even in this economy that we say, 100K is no money. That's still like a lot of money for somebody to give you for work you did not do or like anything whatsoever. So that had happened, right? And I had seen the faithfulness of God. But regardless, right, there are when I talk about like miracles and everything, miracles are great. We appreciate the power of God and everything, but a lot of times you will still need God on a daily basis, right? What happened 2 weeks ago, you will be surprised it cannot sustain you for this week or next month. You still need that constant walk with God. So I was still in this place, and eventually the 6 weeks had elapsed. Nothing happened. That day, I remember the day that person, was supposed to come back to their place. I was almost going out to the street to sleep because I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? I call someone that is like a distant relative, and because I don't have any family in Lagos as well. All my friends were either, staying with someone, or they just weren't in position to accommodate me. So I speak to her, and she's like, oh, someone is in a place or wanting. I call another friend, and then the person helps me out, pays for like a hotel for me to stay in for like 2 days. So I call let me call my aunt again, and then she now says, oh, I can come over to her place and stay the week. I ended up staying there for a couple of weeks because what happened was that, she even needed to travel. So she traveled, her place was free. And while I was there, I had now miraculously again, someone called me another day, asked me what I was currently doing, and then just said, okay, hold on, I'll call you back. Called somebody else, made a call, called me back. Oh, I've sent you this person's number, text her. I texted her. She's like, oh, what's up? What do you do? I explained to her. She's like, can you come to the office now? Mind you, this office is now like 15 minutes away from where I was staying. So I just dress up, enter an Uber, and I'm heading to her office. I go there. She says, okay, I got a job. I should resume the following day, right? So that was like the hand of God as well. I started to see God just, walking through men to make things, fall in place for me pretty much. That's how it was.
Okay, so I know you have Tangi Media, Scribed It.
Yeah.
I know you're doing a creative award now. Multifaceted woman. So how did you start your business? Especially Scribed It. Scribed It is first, yeah? Or is Tangi Media first?
Well, it's complicated. Well, okay. I can explain.
Okay.
How do I start? So pretty much, right, I like to trace back my, creative journey all the way to when I was on campus. There was one time when there was like a strike ongoing in school, and I decided that, to keep myself busy, I was going to learn photography. I was interested. And then in church, I had spoken to, someone in church who was in the photography department. I'm like, teach me, please. And then he was kind enough, taught me. Luckily for me, one of my aunts that I traveled abroad one time, I asked for a camera, she bought it for me. I think that's also the favor of God, right? And then I started taking up gigs on campus. So I started off as a photographer. So because of when you have photography skills, I learned how to use like Lightroom and the rest. But then I also had like a passion for writing. So I had a blog, right, which I just write stories about my faith, about my life, and all of that. So that blog eventually evolved. I started feeling like I needed to start doing video content. Now this is like 2016, 2017, right, I started putting out videos on YouTube. So I was putting out these short videos on YouTube. Sometimes I also post some of them on Instagram. Then short form content on Instagram wasn't even like a big deal or a thing, but I was doing it regardless, right? So now I was picking up all these skills along the way, all these creative skills. Now I know photography, I know how to edit videos, So people would usually call me sometimes for gigs, oh, we have this video to edit and all of that. So that's how I started, getting creative gigs. But then, I mean, when I left school, I still got like a proper job. I was working a 9 to 5. And then in the 9 to 5, although I did like a lot of admin work, but I also produced like a podcast for the company and all of that. So now I'm adding to my skill set, right? So all of these skills are things that I picked up along the way. And I gradually evolved into marketing, so content marketing, digital marketing, and the likes, because those are the roles that started coming my way because of the skill set that I already have. And then Scribe Dates was, in fact, 2021 was actually when I conceived the idea of Tangi Media. So I decided that, all of these creative skills that I have, let me just put them under an umbrella, because now it's like, I'm all over the place. So I felt like this is Tangi Media. We'll be able to offer some content production services to clients, right? So if someone calls me, and I need, a video person, or I need you to edit a video, or I need someone to, do photos, even though I am not the one directly handling it, I know the people that are handling that can get the job done. So that's what Tangi Media was about. Although I didn't register that company until last year, right? But I started getting like creative gigs sometimes from there. Scribe Date was in 2023. Funny story, right? But I'm just going to summarize it because I'm keeping that story I have a script on it, right? So I started this business just because I wanted to give my husband a gift for his birthday. He wasn't my husband then anyway. And I had put together this gift for him, this like magazine-like book, and it was really thoughtful gift. And everybody that saw it was like, this is really nice. Who is the vendor? Who is the vendor? I'm like, I'm the vendor, and there was like demand for it. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start this as a business and see as it goes. An interesting thing is that before then, although like I had worked as a gig worker, but to me, Tangi wasn't really business because it was still like me offering services, a lot of control. I still had like a lot of control over the business, right? But with Scribe Dates, I just found out that I had like the motivation to go about it. I had like ideas flooding in. One day I sat down, I got the name, I got what the kind of products I could be selling. I put together like a document. And mind you, my experience, working 9 to 5s and everything, I know how to put structure in place, right? So I just put all of that together. I created an Instagram page. I put out the products that I'd already worked on. I just made 2 more of those products for my brother and then a friend of mine, right? So now I have 3 products that I can snap and post and everything. And that's how I started getting, that's how I got my first clients on Instagram. I got a couple of clients and then I started getting even more and more clients, right? From that business. But I used to be that person. That's what I wanted to say. I say, I don't think I can be a business owner. I just don't think this is for me, right? So it's interesting that happened that way, because I think that if I saw it as business, I think I might have chickened away from it a bit, but it just came at something that was easy for me. I could control the whole business, right? From the design phase, to the marketing side of things. All of those skills were coming into play, right? And eventually I hired staff. I currently have 3 people that work with me. And in fact, this week I registered my 3rd business, right? And it's just like, and you just keep going, you just keep doing things, and that's how the journey has been.
Okay, so when you see a story like this, it seems like everything was rosy. So I wanted to talk to you about rejection.
Okay.
And how you've been able to handle that as a business owner and as a person.
Rejection. So, to me, right, rejection is something that is a necessary evil, in quotes. It's something that everybody has to experience at one point in time. I will not even say you're agege bread, because there are people that don't like bread. There's nothing that you call yourself that, people that you say, everybody will accept you, or, everyone will face one form of rejection or failure, at one point in time. But I think that it is something that is very necessary, and I always preach the gospel of embracing, failure and rejection, because you don't know what it does to you, right? It strengthens you both mentally and emotionally for things that are ahead of you. Because if you think you are rejected today, you don't know the one that you're going to experience in the next 2 years and 3 years, and you will always face some form of rejection. But if you learn to handle it properly, right, it helps you to overcome those ones easier. If I want to, trace back one of my, this is not rejection per se, it's more like failure, right? It was when I was on campus. That's one of the most heart-wrenching experiences that I'd had. I failed a course, right? That was my 200 level. It was the CN 205. It was math. And it was just, that was like a very, very rude awakening for me. It was the first time that I was actually having that level of failure. Like, I fail a course such that I have to repeat. I mean, it's not even, oh, I got like a 50 something and I'm sad about it. You mean I completely failed? So that hurt me really, really bad. I remember as well, because I told you, the only thing, I was such a good girl. The only thing I did was serving God, right? And you feel like, oh, if I'm serving God, things should be going fine for me. My own should be easy. I just pray in tongues that, everything will be rosy. But no, that didn't go as planned. So eventually, I think after I finished crying, I sat down. I think I sat down with one of my pastors. At time in school, we used to have faith for everything. So we even have faith that maybe the results would change, right? But then when, I was entering the EU, I just knew that I had to register the course and I was going to take it again. I sat down with my pastor. He advised that, I take the course again. And then I took it, and I think the biggest part of that for me was not even the failure. You realize that things that make it sting the more is, the embarrassment or the shame that comes with it. And then I think that was my major challenge. So I decided that when I take that class again, I'm going to sit in the very, very front of the class, right? Instead of, when people want to retake a class, they'll go and hide at the back. Sometimes they miss classes. I decided that. And the interesting thing was that I had people in that class that I was pastoring. So imagine seeing your pastor come to repeat like a course and then coming to preach to you on Sunday. It was just not nice. It wasn't a nice experience. But I went through that, and at the end of the day, I realized I did not die. Like, worst thing that will happen is that people will talk. And the truth is that people will always talk regardless, right? I think that's one of the things that has shaped me and has shaped my mind, right? I've faced much more rejection along the way. I've had times that, it's just back to back. You try something, it doesn't work out. I just believe you move on to the next thing. It hurts, right? But I think when you learn to move on from it fast, it helps, right? I still spoke about this earlier this year. I had like a product launch that I had planned for my business, Scribed it, and the whole thing just wasn't working out well. And this is something that I put in months of preparation into. I had tried my best, and they are just things beyond my control, right? And as much as I was sad, I'm like, okay, this drop did not go. It was supposed to be like a December drop, right? It delayed into January. We tried, didn't make as much sales as I thought. February came, and I'm like, what? Let's just move on to Valentine's sales. We'll be fine. Valentine came, so if you still didn't even still didn't get what I was expecting, and I'm just like, let's move on. It has happened, right? And it's just something that I have to accept. And most times, the reason why people are afraid of rejection, right, is most times because of what happens as a result of it. Like, oh, you feel like you failed in front of people, right? And but I just think that rejection is something that should be embraced, right? I saw something during Christmas or so there was someone I saw on Instagram doing like a 1,000 rejections thing. So I was going to talk about it. So I started it. I have like a spreadsheet, right? And my goal is to at least get rejected 100 times this year. So all of the things I apply for, I just track it there. Whether it's like an influencer partnership or a job or a grant, whatever the case might be, I just apply for it, knowing that it's only two output. They will not come to my house and flog me like, why did you apply for this thing? No, the worst that will happen is that we are sorry to inform you, or whatever the case might be. All the rejection letters, I have a lot in my DMs, and I think that is something that now there are some that you look at them and you just move about your day. There are some that you look at it, you pause, you cry because it will hurt you, right? But then you move on from it.
Okay, so if you have any question, we'll take questions in about 2-3 minutes. I'll just ask this question, and it's about your faith.
Yeah.
Very loud about your faith. So
Yeah.
let me try and do this. So if you've watched our videos before, she will say something like this. My name is Anne. I'm a content creator, digital marketer, and all time, every day, a child of God. Yeah. I got it, Abby.
Not really, but yeah, you tried.
Okay, so how are you able, because especially for us young people,
Yeah.
it's very hard. Like, you do it for everything, and I'm like, so some videos where you don't do it at the beginning, you end with it, and I'm like, how is she able to be this loud about God in a generation where, especially when it's business, we want to sort of like separate God from it. So how are you able to be loud about your faith? So if you have a question, you can just raise your hand, and then we'll take your question, or you can send them to me.
Okay. I think for my faith, right, it is something that I think it's the grace of God, right? It's a zeal that I got earlier on. So it all started from, when I told you that I started writing from the blog and everything. I will write about my faith. I will talk about my faith. Because at that point in time, and up until now, I just feel like this thing is such a good thing, right? It's an encounter that I've had with God. It's an experience, being in Christ. And I'm just being selfish if I do not share it with the world. Sometimes, even Scripture says, taste and see that the Lord is good. So sometimes, a lot of times when I share that faith, it's like I'm inviting you to taste. Is when something good happens to you, if it is so life-changing, you will just want to speak about it, right? So when people ask me this question, I'm just like, why are you not loud about your faith? It is such a strong conviction in my heart, right? And I just see it as this is my identity. This is who I am. I'm as well, going to talk about God if He does all of these things for me. In terms of business, I literally told you how I started my business. It was like, I know that I can't make these things up. I can't come up with these things. I know that there is a God that plays like an active role in my life every single day. And as a matter of fact, the fact that I do so many other things, I know that it is Him that gives me capacity to do this. I do a lot of things sometimes, or I just enter into certain levels of creativity, and I'm just like, this wasn't me. I just think of things, or I just sit down and write a script, and I'm just like, how did I come about that? I know that it is God that is working in me and through me like every single day. So it just makes sense to talk about it. If God is like the brain and the spirit behind my business, if He's the one that, gives me all of these great ideas and, pushes me, and in Him I live, move, and have my being, like, why wouldn't I be loud about it? I think that I've adapted it to my lifestyle, because when people, I'm actually a very shy person. A lot of people don't know that because I'm vocal online, right? But then I'm just like, why, when you sit down and ask yourself, why are you ashamed? Why are you shy? Why don't you want to speak up, right? You find out that there are other underlying issues that do not glorify God. Okay, so to me, I'm just telling you that this is me. I mean, if it's like someone flaunting their riches or their wealth on Instagram, nobody's going to have a problem with that. But when it comes to something like God, you want to start cringing. Why? So it's something that is a daily lifestyle. Like, I have come to accept that this is who I am, and I'm going to embrace it, and I'm going to drag as much people, with me as possible.
Okay, so I don't know if you have any question. I have one here someone has sent, and the person is saying, so I've seen that you won a grant, and I'm trying to win a grant myself. I wanted to ask what advice you can give to me.
The only advice I can give to you is to put your best foot forward. It depends on the grant you're trying to access, right? You just need to be able to prove that you are worth investing in, right? Different grants have different requirements for them. I even have grant spending that I have applied for, but whatever it is, make sure that you understand what these people want to see, right? If they want to see, somebody that is in, doing like a sustainable business. I still saw one grant that someone sent to me. I looked at it. They wanted something tech, and the business I'm trying to pitch, I'm like, this thing doesn't have tech. Is it that I let it go and I look for the ones that actually, apply to me, or I look for a way to tailor it in such a way that it really resonates with them. So I think it's understanding the particular grant you're trying to apply for. Make sure you always read, like, okay, what are these people looking for? And then you put your best foot forward. Whatever they ask for, make sure that you give it an extra. Make sure that you try to stand out. Whatever you're doing, that's one thing that I try to apply, like in my life. I'm doing something. If they say send an application, do AB, I will do ABC, right? I would like to make sure that I always put my best foot forward, and I always present myself in like a very excellent way that, it's going to be almost like difficult for anybody to say this person does not deserve it.
Okay. All right. So, can we just put our hands together again for Anne? Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you. All right.